My name is Lauren Kenrick, and this is my persuasive presentation. Imagine that your family dog is a loving, loyal, and obedient animal. Now, imagine your city is adopting a law that restricts or bans the breed your dog is. This is called breed-specific legislation, or BSL for short. Hundreds of municipalities throughout the United States and outside of the United States in many countries have been adopting this BSL legislation. So what's the definition of BSL? The regulation of your right to own, or in many cases not own, a dog based solely on the breed, not on your responsibility as an owner. So the types of dogs that are involved in breed-specific legislation are pit bulls, which isn't really a breed of dog. It encompasses 3 to 5 different breeds, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, and a few other kinds. The idea behind BSL is to try and create a safer environment for the general public and for other animals. And today we're going to discuss why I don't believe that BSL works. So the first reason would be there are better approaches. In December 2013, the Journal of Veterinary Medicine Association published a study, which is the most comprehensive study since the 1970s when this was first something that people were researching. These findings suggested that a number of ownership and husbandry practices would work better in preventing dog bites than BSL. So the number of cofactors were found in these situations where fatal dog bites occurred. And in 97% of the dogs, 97% of the dogs were not spayed or neutered. 85% of the attacks involved owners who mistreated or abused their dogs. And 78% of the dogs were not kept as family pets, but they were kept as something called resident dogs. And that would be yard dogs or guard dogs or dogs that were kept strictly for breeding purposes. So some examples of better approaches would be animal control and community programs that focus on educating the public on responsible dog ownership, and that would include care and training of dogs. And so this information would be at low or no cost to the public, and it should be well publicized and available to everyone in the cities. So educating children on the subject of proper dog ownership and socialization would help, because children don't really know how to approach an unfamiliar dog usually, and I think that's where a lot of dog bites or bad situations happen, is when the dog doesn't know how to pet a dog, doesn't know how to approach a dog, and that dog becomes nervous if the child is unknown to them. And so another thing that would help would be legislation that isn't breed specific, but it's based on irresponsible owners, such as leash laws and dog at large laws. So secondly, BSL is really hard to enforce, and it's very expensive. BSL forces law enforcement to spend valuable time on breed identification, which they don't have a background in, so they don't really know how to specifically say which breed a certain dog is. It's very difficult because there's a lot of mixed breeds out there, and a lot of dogs look similar. There's a lot of similar physical characteristics on dogs, such as a boxer. And for example, in 2007 in Kansas City, Kansas, a family dog named Nico was seized for being a pit bull and held for 8 months. And DNA testing eventually proved that Nico was actually a boxer mix, and he was released back to his family. So this is a very common situation, and it just shows how hard it is for someone to, not based on DNA, just based on what they see, to immediately assume a dog is a certain breed. So according to the ASPCA, which is the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Prince George's County, Maryland, spends about $250,000 per year on breed-specific legislation. So over the course of a year, they only spend $35,000 on dog licenses. So it doesn't really add up cost-wise. They're spending significantly more on actually banning or restricting breeds than they are coming in from the licenses. So the cost of breeds specific legislation is law enforcement, man hours, kenneling, veterinary care, euthanization, and legal fees. All of these are associated with BSL legislation. It can get very pricey. So the last thing is BSL is just not effective. These types of restrictions and bans, they divert attention from the real issue, which is irresponsible ownership of animals. And that is all animals, all dogs, not just specific breeds. So if pit bulls and Rottweilers and other specific breeds were outlawed, criminals and other irresponsible owners would just own a different breed of dog. It doesn't matter if it's a pit bull or not. They're going to find a different animal and they're going to mistreat that animal, and it's going to result, in dog bites and stuff like that. As I stated earlier, Prince George's County, Maryland is one of the places where BSL exists. In 2003, they did a study to figure out the effectiveness of BSL and found that public safety is not improved as a result of banning animals, and that there is no transgression committed by owner or animal that is not covered by another non-breed specific portion of the Animal Control Code, which would be vicious animal, nuisance, or leash laws. So in conclusion, this subject is extremely important to me since I own 2 mixed breed pit bull type dogs. I would personally be devastated if my city or town came to me and confiscated my dogs with no basis, because I do everything I can to ensure that they're properly trained, cared for, and socialized. BSL is not been created for public environment.